Well, hello and welcome back to the history of the Gosford Musical Society. Now today, I'm going to talk about something a bit different. You see, life in the theater, live theater, is full of fun. So today, my discussion is going to be about incidents and pranks. I have a lot of short little things to tell you as we go. And many of you will probably be able to identify with these if you've been involved in theater. You see, at our 60th and 70th anniversaries celebrations, they always talked about some of the bloopers. You see, final nights used to be like a free-for-all when actors tried to upstage each other and make them laugh. Now, we don't do that anymore, but we used to do it quite a bit in the old days. Now, give you an example here. In the old days, there's a goat. The Goat and the White Horse Inn in 1978, one of the orchestra musicians sitting in the front used to get out some lettuce and dangle it in front of the goat and try to get it to come down, and so that they would interrupt the show. Not very nice, not very nice at all. Imagine, I want you to imagine, you're in the show Jesus Christ Superstar, and you're playing the role of Jesus Christ. It gets to the crucifixion scene. Jesus Christ is lying there on the crucifix, and it's pulled up, and the actor that's playing it, who shall remain nameless, looked up and he saw his wristwatch. Oh, ouch. You can imagine how that went with the director of the show. Franz the Butler in The Sound of Music. I want you, again, here we have an actor that comes on as Franz. He's got 2 suitcases in his hands, and he races with his grand entry and says, "Children, your father and you, mother, have just arrived back from their honeymoon." Well, this was news to the children because this was like an hour before it actually even had a proposal. Wow, that kills you. There have been some tech problems in the old days too. I'll give you an example. Julia Morris, who we all know from TV, she was doing Calamity Jane with us, and she had a part where she had her gun and she fired her gun. No sound effects. So she yelled out, "Bang!" You can imagine 2 seconds later, the actual sound effect of the bang came. But in that same show, last night, remember Fun Night? The whiskey was always sort of dry ginger ale. On the last night, it was real whiskey at the saloon. Everybody started to go to the saloon to have a little drink. They don't do that anymore. Another really funny one that I thought was, in Wicked, the beast was opening up his mouth to put out this magnificent roar, and instead what you heard was, ding dong, wrong one played. That happens. Opening night of Jekyll and Hyde. And I remember I was on stage when this happened, but opening night of Jekyll and Hyde, we have the introduction to the stirring song, "This is the moment." Great, all that beautiful music, and instead the person playing the synthesizer hit the wrong button, and it came up with this tempo, boom, 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 boom. Sort of destroyed the moment, I think. I call it a king technical problem, was the Mikado in 1995. You see, they didn't have an orchestra. They used a sound disc, a CD, and they played it. Now, I've got all these women on stage at the beginning of Act 2 to sing Braid the Raven Hair. Curtain comes up, and the music begins, and it gets to a certain point where it's like a broken record, a broken record, a broken record. So they stopped, curtain came down. Curtain comes back up, they started to sing, broken record, broken record. And it wasn't until the 3rd time that they put in a different CD that it worked. Could you imagine on that? How frustrated you'd be. Another good one is the use of radio mics. Now you see in the early days, and I'm talking about the 1980s, when radio mics were first used, it was always sort of hit and miss. Where to put them and all that sort of stuff. But there was a technician that sat in the back in the old high school hall, and he or she would have a control desk, and it would have each radio mic was on a certain channel. Sometimes they forgot to turn the mic off. So you as an actor would do your bit out there, you'd walk off, and the technician may have been distracted, forgot to turn it off, and they kept talking. And it was particularly interesting when they got into the dressing rooms and started talking. And that's a boom moment. That's not good at all. Forgetting lines has been something that is a dread to all actors, forgetting your lines. Return to the Forbidden Planet. Now, there was like a spaceship, and it went up in the second level. And there was one of the actors were down in the front, and she forgot her lines. So instead of staring at the audience, she did sort of the right thing. She turned around, went up the steps, up to the spaceship, went to where her script was, acted like it was a part of the ship, and she's going through it, and came back and did her line. And I directed that show, and I thought, that was opening night, and I'm sitting in the front row, and I'm going, oh no. Anyway, that was one example. Wizard of Oz. The Scarecrow was singing, "If I only had a brain." Unfortunately, he forgot his lines. He couldn't remember. And then he made up a line like, "Oh, well, if I had a brain, I'd know." The Mikado again, 1995. Oh, boy. One of the actors started a scene, forgot his lines, totally forgot his lines, and went straight to the end of the scene. And it's when the whole female cast was supposed to be on. And they suddenly got the monitor in the dressing room and said, "Oh, we got to go." To all these herd of women running onto the stage, and that's not good. That is not, and I got to tell you, if you've ever been in that position, your heart's beating up and down, you're thinking, oh my God. Anyhow, Oliver, Bill Sykes, he's the baddie in the show. And he sings a song called "My Name." And then this whole thing is about how tough he is and whatever. And he comes to the very ending, and he's supposed to say, "My name is," and he says, "Bill Sykes." This actor gets out there and he goes, "And my name is," everybody in the end seat is going, "Bill Sykes, Bill Sykes." So that happens to a lot of people. And it's terrible when you have a brain freeze like that. And that's a real boom, boom. We have Cabaret. And I remember this one because I was sitting on a sofa. And one of the actresses had a line to give me, and she couldn't remember it. So she turned her back to the audience and came to me, and she said, "What's my line?" I had no idea what her line was. And, it wouldn't have mattered. But at any rate, she was so nervous. She had a feather duster in her hand. And instead of dusting stuff, she dusted the top of my head. I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. While we're on Cabaret, I got to tell you, I was in that show with Julia Morris. And there's a scene where I'm drunk. It's the next morning, I've got a hangover. And so the whole idea was she was going to make me a drink called a Prairie Oyster. So she hands me a glass, and she would put a couple of raw eggs in there, some Tabasco sauce, curry powder, peppers, chili peppers, and give it to me. And, of course, I would always turn around and act like I drank it. And on the last night, remember the last night's when all the fun comes. She hands it to me and says, "Now, Clifford," that was my name on the show, "drink it down." So I turned. She pulled me back to face the audience. I turned. She pulled me back again and said, "I'm not leaving this stage, Clifford. I'm not leaving this room, Clifford, until I see the bottom of that glass." Well, I drank it. I can still taste it now. It was horrible. So that's all for me today with Pranks and Incidents. I will look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thank you.